on the presentation on some gender issues in disaster risk reduction and management. And I hope that by the end of my presentation, you will have some brief understanding on why it's important to mainstream gender in disaster risk reduction and management policy and program. And my presentation will have four parts. The first is on the rationale, the legal framework, some gender issues, and the last part is on some principle. Let me start with the first part. What is the argument for mentioning gender in disaster risk reduction and management? Because you can see that the disaster risk management and reduction policy and program can benefit a lot from gender mainstreaming, because it can capitalize on the talent, the capacity, and the contribution of both women and men. And it can avoid potential and adverse effects from disaster reduction, I can say, by source of ER policy and action that might increase gender inequality. In fact, in many other sectoral policies, when you don't consider gender equality or mention gender in that policies, it might create some adverse effects on creating more gender inequality. Gender mainstreaming in disaster risk reduction and management policy is important because you can see that disaster affect women and men differently. We call it gender differences effects, and women and men are prepared or their resilience to disaster is also different, and also their capacity to participate in the disaster management and reduction activity is different from each other. So because all these differences, it's really important that we need to mention gender in ER and ERM policy and program. We do it also based on the legal framework at the international and national level. At the international level, the Hyogo Framework for Action that endorsed by 168 countries, including Vietnam, also said that gender need to be mainstreaming in all the steps of the ER and EIM policy and program. At the national level, the law on gender equality and the national strategy on gender equality also require all the other sectoral ministries to mainstream gender in their work. And the law on disaster risk reduction management adopted last year also mentioned that gender equality is one of the key principles. In reality, we can see that there's a lot of gender issues in disaster risk reduction, and we can see it's some evidence-based for the policy and program. For example, I can just highlight here some of the issues. First is the concentration or the higher percentage of women working on the agricultural sector. Is you know that in the Vietnam condition that it's still heavily affected by the weather conditions. So it's not like in the developed countries when the agriculture industries is is with technology and a lot of machines, but in Vietnam it's still based on a lot of the manuals and on the weathers. So that's why it's really affected. And because women concentrate in this sector, so the risk of lost income and productive resource is higher than men. The second point is women also concentrate more in the informal sector with limited access to social protection. So when disaster happens with no any measures of protection or system, so it's also not good for them also. So they are more vulnerable. And in Vietnam, you also know that there's the woman's role and responsibility in the taking care of other family members still heavily. So when by the time of disaster, this is a great more burden on women's shoulder in taking care of the family member and other people in the community there's disaster happen, the resort is scared, so they have to go further to get water or to take care of the people that injured during the disaster. So it's also create more work and more burden on women. And there are some studies also show that violence against women also tend to increase during disaster because of the tension or the crisis or like the threat during disaster. The men tend to have more violence on their female members, and also the issues of sexual harassment during the evacuation or the fifth part is on the women have also less access to resources such as credit or markets and the extension service. So poor women have limited opportunity to change their income generation work. So they have the coping strategy is limited. So they have to still depend on the agricultural works, for example. So that's why they are more vulnerable. And in the sectors of the disaster, women still considered as victims. They have less voice in family and the community also. So here's some suggestion for basic principle for mainstreaming gender in disaster risk reduction policy and program. So it's go all through all the cycles of the policy and program. So at the beginning, we need to have the gender assessment or gender analysis of the policy and the program. And then for the implementation phase, we need to have gender-specific objectives. We need to have equal participant, both men and women in the activities. And for the monitoring, we have to have the sex distributed data. That's it for my presentation. Thank you very much.
Any questions? Yes.
Thank you for your presentation. Can you come back to previous? Yeah. Can you give any evidence to violence against women tends to increase in disaster? Can you explain more about that? And if you have any statistics?
Thank you for the questions. Actually, regarding the statistic, I think in Vietnam now we haven't had any studies specific on this issue, so it's quite difficult for me to give you a specific number. But in the studies, especially internationally, the literature internationally, so that the violence against women tend to increase in disaster, especially in the case of sexual harassment or abuse of evacuation phase. So I hope that in coming futures we can have studies on that.
It is very interesting to me just how is the connections between the disaster and the women issues, and we mainstreaming gender into the disaster management, risk management. So I would like to ask one question that once the disaster happened and all people lost all their property, everything, and how the relief would be distributed to different people. Yeah, because I saw that in practice, the relief equally dividing into different households regardless of their needs. So does your project deal with this issue?
Thank you very much for interesting questions. So I don't know that the case that you see that the relief package is distributed equally to all the family. I mean, where exactly is it? But as far as the community that we work on, when we discuss with the local government and the women union, even the women there, it said that because the relief package is also like not too many, so it's little, it's limited also, so it's not enough to distribute to all the people. But actually, they have a mechanism to like list all the affected household, and then this package, relief package, will be allocated to only these the most affected household. Of course, the criteria to select the most affected household is still a question. But in our project, we also promote the for the local government and the women union to pay more attention on the most disadvantaged group, like woman-headed household, or the pregnant woman, or like the most affected household. Is it my answer satisfy you?
Thank you.